history.
In our history podcast.
I'm ready, man. This was good.
I know. I'm
This is
excited
good.
too. All right. Hey, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Mystery in Our History podcast, where we take an in-depth look at all things urban legend and conspiracy theory related and how they came to be. I'm J.R. Supa, and joining me as always is Chris Berry.
How are you, lovely people?
So on this episode, we are going to continue our journey into the world of alien lore with stories of alien encounters from around the world. The most famous of which is the Rendlesham Incident that took place in the UK. But first, we're going to cover a couple of quickies. So the first thing we're going to go over is the 1976 Dreckmont Forest abduction, in where Robert Taylor, a 61-year-old forester in Dreckmont Woods in Scotland, had an encounter with a UFO on November 9th, 1979. The object appeared to be hovering just above the forest floor. It made no sound and seemed to be completely motionless. And Taylor claims he experienced a foul odor like burning brakes, and that smaller spheres, similar to sea mines, had seized him and were dragging him in the direction of the larger object when he lost consciousness. There we go, stuttering again.
Uh-oh.
I was doing so well. According to Taylor, he later awoke and the objects were gone, but he could not start his truck, so he walked back to his home in Livingston. He tried to report the incident, but due to his injuries, the police recorded the matter as a common assault.
It's funny too, because when I was looking this up, it's one of the only incidents that's actually promoted as, and I quote, the only example of an alien sighting becoming the subject of a criminal investigation, because he came back,
Right.
with wounds.
Yeah, he was all cut up
It was
and
way jacked.
disheveled. All right, so the next one we want to go over is the 1993 Kelly Cahill. I think it's Cahill abduction.
I think it's Cahill too.
Yeah, I mean it's Cahill, so I'm going with Cahill.
Yeah.
All right. In August of 1993, Kelly Cahill, her husband, and 3 children were driving home after a visit to a friend's house. On their drive home through the Dandenong foothills, I'm sure that's not how you pronounce it, near Victoria.
Didgeridoo?
Exactly, the Didgeridoo foothills, near Victoria, Australia. They came upon a light so bright that they were practically blinded. When the lights died down, they saw a craft that disappeared as quickly as it had appeared. Kelly then suddenly became calm and smelled a foul odor, and shortly after realized about an hour had passed. So
real quick, I just want to interject here. It's not at all related, but did you hear about the gay porn that got in trouble for the use of a didgeridoo in the anus?
No.
And the line, "I'm gonna didgeridoo you in the ass."
No.
That's legit. Like, they got in like some serious trouble for that shit. But anyway, that way off subject.
Completely, but still funny. All right. But quick side note, like, this is two separate occasions in 2 completely different parts of the world, 2 different continents, where the odor is something.
Yeah. Yep. They smelled something foul.
Yeah. So when she got home, Kelly realized that she had a triangular mark on her navel. Kelly suffered from general malaise for the next week or 2 and was taken to the hospital on 2 separate occasions, one for severe stomach pain and another for a uterine infection. Now, as time passed, she began to recall that the family actually pulled over to investigate the craft, and that under the craft was a group of aliens that, in Kelly's words, were, quote, void of color, end quote. Yet its shape was clearly discernible. The black alien entity was taller than an average man, about 7 feet in height, according to Kelly, and its eyes were large like a fly's and glowing red. After being mesmerized by the sight of the being, she saw more of them, heaps of them, quote unquote, is how Kelly described them, and she stared into the as she stared into the open field.
Yeah, and I was also reading that the aliens were out there in the field, but beneath the flying craft, and the beings seemed to congregate in like small groups, and one group actually glided towards Kelly and her husband, covering hundreds of yards in a mere few seconds.
That's
just scary stuff.
So those are two very quick incidents, first-hand accounts, obviously, and on two completely different continents, right? One's in Scotland, one's in Australia. So, just so that, because we've been focusing primarily on the United States, right?
Right.
So it needs to be said, like, this is stuff that's all happening. Obviously, ancient aliens, we covered, stuff all over the globe, right? Stuff in Greece and stuff in Latin America and all that kind of stuff. But these alien encounters are not just happening in the United States, right? They're happening all over the place. So we wanted to cover those two. But the meat and potatoes of this particular episode is going to be the Rendlesham Forest Incident. One of my favorite alien encounter stories, of all time. I'm more into this than I am Roswell.
Yeah, I have to say, after checking out this story, I gotta say, me too.
It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so let's get started, and we'll take you on a journey. So, also known as British Roswell, the Rendlesham Forest Incident is undoubtedly one of the best documented and most significant military encounters with a craft of unknown origin ever. It is also a case that involved very credible witnesses, aka trained USAF, United States Air Force observers and security police.
Dude, my body is so ready for this. And to my shame, I haven't really looked into this, so I'm really eager to learn more here.
Yeah. Because this is,
however,
when I sent you the outline, that was essentially the first you've ever heard of this.
Basically, yeah. And I need to know, though, however, Area 51, is this all alleged?
So, we are going to throw out a disclaimer that this all allegedly happened.
Okay.
But, at the same time, there are documents of the witness accounts from these people. So we'll go with alleged, but there's a lot of people that were there and are saying it happened. So
kind of like Area 51. There's the proof's in the pudding, but it's all alleged because the government says so.
Right. And we'll get more into why it's really hard to say that it's alleged, but we have to. So, in 1980, the British government, led by Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, had agreed to let the United States increase its military presence in the UK. And unknown to most of the British public, many of the big U.S. Air Force bases contained stockpiles of nuclear weapons. One of these bases was the Joint Royal Air Force USAF Air Base at Woodbridge and Bentwaters, located near the town of Ipswich in northeast England. Rendlesham Forest divided the two bases, and it was here in the late evening and early morning of December 26 and 27 in 1980 that this extraordinary series of events began to unfold.
Now that's just classic USA right there. Why even invade any country when you could just dump your your bases in there and just be hey, it's easier to invade when the time comes because we're already there. So, jeez,
just in case. You are such a fucking conspiracy theorist. It's unbelievable. Anyway, although many military and civilian witnesses reported UFO activity over the twin bases during the days between December 25th and December 28th, including the base deputy commander, Colonel Charles Halt, it is the testimony of the three men who initially went into Rendlesham Forest to investigate reports of the strange lights that proves to be the most dramatic. Dramatic because not only did one of these men claim to see a landed UFO, he actually claims to have touched it. And there is even the more controversial possibility that he interacted with an intelligence of unknown origin, possibly not from this world.
That's crazy, man. I wonder what he means when he says that. Like, did he interact with, like, a cosmic or maybe psychic voice at that point? Was there no body that he could foresee to the intelligence? Like, so many questions, and I'm just all ears.
I'm hung up on the fact that he touched it. He says that he touched whatever it was.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. Staff Sergeant Jim Peniston. My personal hero. Staff Sergeant Jim Peniston, the on-duty flight chief for the Woodbridge base, was enjoying a midnight snack when he received a call from the security center telling him Airman First Class Cabinsag. I hate these names. Airman First Class Cabinsag was on his way to collect him. He was then instructed to meet up with two of the base's military police, Staff Sergeant Bud Steffens and Airman First Class John Burroughs. When they met, Steffens and Burroughs told them they had seen some strange lights over the forest and that there may be a problem. Thinking that the men may have seen a downed aircraft, Peniston told Burroughs that they should go and investigate. Peniston was shocked when he heard Steffens insist that it couldn't have been a crash because he had already seen the strange light actually land.
So I was wondering what Peniston was snacking on for midnight, and I just was just like, it's probably just midnight tea. You know how they are. There's midnight.
It's just crumpets.
Yeah, a midnight spot of tea and some crumpets. No, but so I just want to clear up. It was Steffens. He was the guy that saw the craft, right?
So yes, Steffens is the one that claimed to have seen the craft over the forest and seen it land, but
Gotcha.
Peniston was the one that's like, we got to go check it out.
We gotta check.
It could be a crashed aircraft, and then Steffens is like, no, nothing crashed. I watched it land. So Steffens had been so shaken by what he had seen, he refused to join the patrol and investigate. So Peniston, accompanied by Cabinsag and Burroughs, then jumped into a vehicle and drove into the forest. There they saw a bright light shining through the trees, and due to difficult terrain, they abandoned their vehicles and proceeded on foot. As they approached the light, they began experiencing problems with their radios, like red flag, guys.
Yeah.
Peniston then ordered Cabinsag to stay back in behind the vehicle and act as a communications relay between them and the security control center.
Dude, now I know for a fact, like, when I'm in my car and, like, engines die, radio's not going anymore, and it's just, like, creepy remote, no one's around, aliens, dude. I'm not even going to chalk it up to a dead battery anymore. Like, aliens.
I'm just happy they told Casablanca to stay by the band so that I don't have to try and pronounce his name anymore.
Yeah, right, exactly. Get the hell out of my story.
Jesus Christ. Sucks. For no other reason than having a name I can't pronounce.
Yeah, absolutely.
As they walked deeper into the forest, Peniston noted with anxiety that all the animals and birds appeared to be in a terrible frenzy. He also noted that radio communication with Casablanca, although still close by, had deteriorated. He ordered Burroughs to move back to the tree line and act as a relay, but Burroughs had now become so frightened he failed to acknowledge the order, and resultantly, all radio contact with the base was lost. The two men were now on their own.
Dude, that is just absolute no good. Like, you never want to be on your own when you're dealing with something like this. Like, I'm thinking, if this is me, right, I'm out in the woods, I'm calling up everyone I know. I'm like, all right, get over here. I need strength in numbers. I need as many people. I'm going to overwhelm this son of a bitch.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's just like, I doubt it would matter because they're so advanced. Like, would all the humans just be frenzied in the woods just like the animals?
I don't know.
Like,
also, on a side note, I have to apologize to everyone listening because I can't friggin' speak today, so I don't know what it is. I think it's the White Claw that I'm drinking.
A little clam hatting over there.
Oh, yeah, little White Claw actions got me feeling a little loose in lips, and I'm having a problem pronouncing words.
Is this sponsored?
No, but please,
Not sponsored.
White Claw, we would love for you to
Get
sponsor
at us.
Yeah,
Get
hit
at
me
us.
up.
Also, real quick, alien crowd control sounds overkill. So, like,
Yeah.
no wonder, like, the government or, like, the powers that be don't want us with this technology. Like, that is insane.
Serious. All right. When Peniston got to a distance of 50 meters, he could make out a metallic-type object, some kind of craft, but unlike any he had ever seen in his 7 years in the Air Force. As he moved closer, he discovered that the air seemed to be charged with a static electricity, causing the hair to stand on end.
I wonder if that's, like, a result of, like, the craft itself, like, drawing energy out of the air. Like,
Probably.
like almost like a Tesla, like a mini Tesla arc in there or something that's just refueling by sitting there.
Well, yeah, because, and, like, what we discussed in the Roswell incident, too, was, like, all of the interference and everything that was taking place with all of these different interactions.
Yeah.
It always has something to do. It always comes back to, like, the lights going out one way or another.
Yeah, exactly. Some sort of electrical interference. Yeah.
Right. So as he closed to within 20 meters of the object, he noticed that the animals had scattered and the area was now completely quiet. As he got closer, he could see the object in more detail. He described seeing a shiny black triangular-shaped craft, 3 meters in width and 2 high. The surface was smooth, almost glass-like. He later said it was about the size of a tank. White light was emitting from both the top and bottom of the craft. Red and blue lights flashed alternatively on either side.
All right, man. So, first off, this meter talk. I need imperial system measurements, all right? I'm too American and too uneducated to understand what meters look like. So I'm going to need the use of, like, the metric system to stop here.
I'm sorry.
No offense to anyone overseas, but listen, our school system's not that good anymore.
It's not.
So, you're
like
going to have to give me
25th in math.
Exactly. I need the good old-fashioned yard or something, you know what I mean?
So,
anyway.
At first, when he saw it, it was a little less than a football field, and now it's about a little less than half a football field.
That I can imagine. Thank you. See,
You're welcome.
football field measurements.
Nothing
Listen,
gets more
if you ever have a
American than
confused
that.
American on your hand, just explain things in football fields. We'll get it. We might slam a beer can on our head, but we'll get it.
And that's football, not football, because that's totally different measurements.
Yeah. You don't actually play it with your foot.
Right.
Second off, and more on topic, this is a triangular craft, and that intrigues me because I'm familiar personally with 3 different shapes of UFOs that are very common. The typical saucer, which we all know what it looks like.
Right.
And then the second one I've seen, we've seen and talked about it in God's Year 2019, this year. The cigar-shaped UFO. That's the one that's, like, in the news constantly, and, like, we're talking about that openly now suddenly, and it's great.
Yeah.
And then, lastly, and honestly, one of the least common ones that I've seen is the triangular-shaped one, but it's not that uncommon because it still gets lumped in there quite often.
Right. Well, and that's the triangular-shaped one is the one that's really used for, like, it's what they use in, like, Star Wars, right? That's the big battleships and so that's that, like, triangular based. But then they also, like, in more UFO terms, it's often depicted that, like, Superman's craft that he came here with was like a little triangular UFO.
Yep.
So it's used, but it's definitely not, like, as common as, the saucer one.
Yo, speaking of Superman, have you seen ads for that movie that's, like, basically they find a Superman in their backyard, but it turns out
What
he's,
if
like,
Superman
demented?
was evil?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Dude,
a
that
whole
looks
new
pretty
genre.
cool.
It's called superhero horror or something like that. It looks really cool. I'm very excited
neat.
to see it.
Cool concept.
Yeah. All right. Back on topic.
Yeah, right.
So Peniston takes out a camera and begins photographing the object. He shot the entire roll and then moved closer so he could circle around the back of it. He was amazed to see no visible means of propulsion, nor were there any signs or obvious signs of conventional manufacture. No seams, no rivets, which is very common in, like we said, in all of the UFOs that
It's
we've
not
seen
man-made.
before. Right, exactly. And in Roswell, too.
Mm-hmm.
So by now, and in complete awe of what this object might be, he courageously places his hand on its surface, which he said felt warm despite the freezing night of the English winter.
Jeez.
Sliding his hand over the smooth exterior, he discovered a series of raised symbols etched into its left-hand side. The symbols, which he later drew, were about 3 inches high and covered the area of about 3 feet in diameter.
Now we're talking feet, inches. You got me.
You're such an ass. Dude. Oh, look, a UFO. I'm going to touch it.
Yeah, balls of steel on that dude, right? The guy going up to this object, he has no idea what it is. I'll just throw my hands on it.
I'm going to touch
Yep.
it. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, right? Not death. Not that.
No, that's definitely not it. Psycho.
Right?
All right. When Sergeant Peniston put his hand on the etched symbols, which felt like sandpaper compared to the rest of the smooth, molded surface, everything became a brilliant white light. This mofo activated a UFO,
Yeah.
or at least scared whoever was in it. He could neither see nor hear. He was alone in a brilliant, bright white light. This occurred for an undetermined amount of time, and then his sight returned. He was standing next to the craft, facing the pictorial glyphs. The craft started to turn a vivid, bright white color again. So bright, in fact, Sergeant Peniston thought it was going to explode. He took a defensive position nearby as the craft was engulfed in the light. The craft then lifted off, approximately 4 feet from the ground, maneuvered between the trees, ascended to treetop level, and disappeared in the blink of an eye.
Literally moving at the speed of light. That's crazy. Absolutely insane.
F that noise.
Right?
That's all I can say.
Shit and bricks at that point.
Right? Oh, yeah, I touched it. I can't see.
Yep.
Oh, now it's going to explode. He stated he could see no occupants, but sensed there were some sort of life presence inside. He was absolutely certain it was under intelligent control. Duh.
Yeah, well, that's what I was like. I don't recall mention of a clear surface to see through. I don't think UFOs need windshields to see in space. So obviously something's inside controlling this. Sergeant Steelnuts. Now going to be Sergeant Numbnuts in a second.
If there's a machine of any kind,
something's operating it.
and it gets up and flies away, some level of intelligence has to be operating the machine.
Yeah. Whether it's in the machine itself, like the machine is sentient and
or even if it's a
move.
drone.
Yeah. Something's controlling it.
Right.
Something intelligence. Yeah, come on.
Idiot.
Come on.
He was my hero.
Sergeant
He was
Numbnuts.
short-lived, but he was my hero.
Yeah, that's fair.
After returning to the base and reporting what they had saw, the men were debriefed and told to forget they had ever seen anything. Realizing immediately that officials would try to whitewash the incident, Peniston and Burroughs decided to return to the landing site shortly after they were debriefed. They located the area and found broken branches scattered everywhere. They also found 3 indentations in the ground where the UFO had been resting.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing he had the camera, you know? So, I mean, it's just like, what happened to the camera? But I figure that's probably going to come into play later.
Well, just wait.
Yeah.
So knowing he would need some physical evidence of his encounter, Peniston returned to the landing site the following day and made plaster casts of the indentations. Once back in his room, Jim was, quote, seeing, end quote, ones and zeros in his mind's eye. Troubled by the revolving flashing images of ones and zeros he received from touching the glyphs, he felt compelled to write them down in a notebook. Jim records the ones and zeros in his notebook, and upon completing the transfer to the notebook paper, the image in his mind disappears. So Jim puts the notebook away with his belongings and doesn't think too much about it again. Now, on a side note, in 2010, during a casual conversation with a researcher, Jim mentions the codes and displays the notebook, and the researcher immediately recognizes it as ones and zeros as binary code and sets out to help Jim decipher it. But I couldn't find more on this with my research.
That's odd That's odd that you couldn't find more on it. Also, smart move to transfer it to paper. And it is odd that there's not more on this. I wonder what the binary code was trying to tell Jimbo there.
I mean, I might have just not dived deep enough into it, to be honest. But it's an interesting side note. And if we can find more on this, we will do a little bonus episode with just a quick explanation of what it is.
I wonder if it was like instructions for like intergalactic travel, or if it was just like Grandma Martian's special soup, intergalactic soup. It's just something absolutely bonkers,
just completely useless to us in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
You need to take the flick flag and the gleep glorp and you put it
and you mash them together. Let it boil. My lord.
So stupid. All right. When members of British military intelligence later investigated the site, they discovered radiation readings that were 10 times higher than normal around the indentations where the spacecraft had been sitting in the ground. This was revealed after the British Ministry of Defence, MOD, released previously classified documents about the case in 2001. This had been done after Admiral Lord Hill Norton, the former British Chief of Defence Staff, has repeatedly applied pressure on the government to do so. What a great name.
Man, the British sometimes. It's just like, you're already Admiral. Do you have to be a Lord too? Like, for fuck's sake.
Absolutely, you have to be a Lord too.
Admiral Lord Norton! Like, god damn it. What the fuck? Anyway, but yeah, so it's something interesting that you mentioned.
Maybe his first name is just Lord. Middle name is Hill.
Wouldn't that be amazing? I'm going to change my first name to Lord.
Princess Consuelo Banana Hammock? That's a Friends reference for anyone out there.
Oh, I love it.
Not understanding what I just said.
But what you mentioned there about radiation in space, they always seem to be linked together, and I never actually thought to look into the connection. Now, I know the, what's it called? The Allen Belt? Is that what it's called? The what's surrounding the Earth there that we can't get through now because we lost the technology? But basically, there's a radiation belt around the Earth, and that's why we haven't gone back to the moon, because we can't figure out how to get through it. But we did it, fucking 50 years
1969?
ago. Yeah, horse shit.
Well, that's another episode.
Yeah, all right.
We're going to cover that, don't worry.
I'll look into it, folks.
That's a whole lot
I'll look into that
nonsense.
radiation.
Anywho. Peniston was so shaken by his encounter with the UFO that he, along with Burroughs, were granted a 60-day leave. Later, he stated, quote, "After that craft took off, I was in no doubt. I realized that it was 100% certain that we are a part of a larger community beyond the confines of this planet," end quote.
I read that. I was just like, what the fuck, larger community? Like, who's we? What are you talking about? Like, are you the army part of the community? Like, the intergalactic community now? Like, it's just a weird quote, I thought.
I mean, essentially, he's just saying, like, we're not alone in the universe.
Right.
It's a weird way to say it, but yeah, he's just saying we're not alone in the universe.
Yeah, just a weird roundabout way of saying it.
Now, however, this remarkable encounter was not the end of the Rendlesham Incident. Another close encounter was to follow, and this time it involved the base deputy commander.
Hell yeah. Nice. Give me more of that, baby. I'm ready for it.
So now we get into Colonel Halt's UFO encounter and the Halt Memorandum. The Halt Memorandum, in which the base deputy commander describes not only Peniston's UFO encounter, but also his own, was written at the request of the British base commander, Squadron Leader Donald Morland. The memorandum was written to the MOD and was supposed to remain classified. However, through a curious twist of fate, it later surfaced after an American organization called Citizens Against UFO Secrecy, or CAUSE, obtained it using the Freedom of Information Act. So suck it.
Absolutely.
In 1983.
Absolutely suck it.
The reason the memo is so important is it provides official confirmation that the UFO event did happen at Rendlesham Forest despite official denials both from the USAF and the MOD, which is why in the beginning of this episode, when we were talking about allegedly versus it happened,
that's why it's whack. It's absolutely whack. All right, so also good job on using democracy to get your documents declassified. Like that's pretty killer. I like that.
Right.
That almost never happens. And in fact, the U.S. is supposed to declassify documents after 50 years. Mm-hmm. Now, this was a big deal when it came to the JFK assassination because it was supposed to come out in 2013, but large portions remained redacted.
Completely redacted.
Yep, absolutely. Also, I found out looking into this that after 75 years, you need special permission to keep things classified that long. So you actually have to go through channels to actually keep stuff hidden, buried, which I thought was interesting.
That is interesting.
I mean,
that's pretty cool.
The government answers to themselves, so I doubt they'll really.
Who's asking for approval? Who's granting approval? Oh, you need approval? There's your stamp.
Yep. I need approval to keep this classified and good to go. Jeez.
Exactly. Okay, so Colonel Halt was away from the base on Christmas Day, so he did not hear about the UFO landing in Rendlesham Forest until December 26th. I almost choked and died.
Oh.
On being informed about the incident, he summoned Airman First Class Casablanca into his office and asked him to describe what had happened. The following day, Halt was attending a party when an officer informed him, quote, "The UFO is back," end quote. Halt then instructed to assemble a patrol and investigate the incident with the express aim of debunking the whole issue. The officers were worried the whole thing was getting out of hand.
That statement kills me, dude. If I had a UFO parked in my backyard, like in the woods back where I live...
This is getting out of hand.
Yeah. I don't think I would say, that UFO's getting out of hand. Like, understatement of the year.
Right?
Jesus.
So with a team of men, he entered the forest. He discovered numerous personnel and vehicles already there. Men ran all over the place as both vehicles and lighting equipment were malfunctioning. Shocker.
Yeah.
He then took his patrol to the original landing site, and shortly after this, spotted a glowing red object moving through the forest. During much of the entire time, Halt had activated a mini tape recorder, so an audio record could be made. This tape was later released to the public. It makes for riveting listening. On it, you can hear Halt and his men getting closer to the UFO. Quote, "There's no doubt about it. There's some type of strange flashing red light ahead," end quote, he states on the tape. Then his voice gets extremely excited as he said, quote, "It's coming this way. It's definitely coming this way. Pieces of it are shooting off. There's no doubt about it. This is weird," end quote. Halt described the object as circular, like a large eye winking at him. Later in the tape, he states, quote, "He's heading toward us now. Now we are observing what appears to be a beam coming to the ground. This is unreal," end quote.
Holy Christ, that's chilling.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, dude. Like, yeah, no, you got my full attention. Like, please, keep going. This is getting good.
It's awesome. The group watched as another object came in at enormous speed and then stopped, hovered over them, and sent a laser-like beam down to the ground only a few feet from their location. The UFO then moved over the weapons storage area and continued firing beams of light into the storage bunkers. Colonel Halt, confined by security oaths, has refused to confirm whether this area contained nuclear weapons, but it is almost certain, given the frontline function of the base at the time, that it did.
Wow.
Additionally, given the documented interest of UFOs in nuclear installations, especially nuclear weapons, some researchers have speculated this was an attempt to probe or even tamper with the nuclear weapons on the base.
Wow. And it's funny because this goes hand in hand with what I said either last episode or the one before it. I don't really recall. That we were trying to launch a nuke into space. I actually looked into that. It was White Sands Missile Range facility in New Mexico. where the world's first atomic bomb, Trinity, was tested on July 16th, 1945.
Okay.
A former Apollo 14 astronaut, Edgar Mitchell, during an interview, has said that White Sands was a testing ground for atomic weapons, and that's what the extraterrestrials were interested in. He said, "They wanted to know about our military capabilities. My own experience talking to people has made it clear that ETs have been attempting to keep us from going to war and help create peace on Earth." He went on to say that an unnamed Air Force official, or an officer, I guess, had told him that their missiles were frequently disabled or shot down by UFOs flying overhead. So I mean, make what you will of that, but I mean, that's coming right from an Apollo 14 astronaut.
Make peace, not war, man.
Why would he lie about something like that? You know what I mean?
That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. The memorandum that Halt later wrote describes his encounter, the Peniston encounter of the previous day, and a description of the 3 indentations and the fact that the area had been checked and found to be radioactive.
Wow, it's starting to come full circle here.
Yep.
Wow, holy shit.
After the memorandum was obtained by UFO researchers, Halt was reluctantly propelled into the public domain and has been a focus of much media attention ever since. He later confided that he didn't think the public was entirely ready to know all the facts about the case. He stated that if the public were to be made fully aware of what happened during the Rendlesham Incident, it would completely change the way people look at reality and the nature of the universe.
It's wild. Again, everyone that has a first-hand experience this close with an ET says that. And it just really makes you wonder, what's the truth of life here? Like, what are we missing?
It's
like,
even what your main man Bob Lazar says.
Don't get me started on Lazar. What does Lazar say?
Nothing. I'm just kidding. I just wanted to see you get flustered.
You're doing it.
I know.
Dude, I feel like they know the mystery of life, the meaning of life. Like they have the key or something.
I think they were part of something that changed the way they look at things, and I think it's the same thing as, like, if any of us knew what really happened, it would be detrimental to society. Ugh. Like, everything we know would change, and I think it's a capitalistic thing. Is like, you know what I mean? If we knew half the stuff, what happens if all of that stuff leads to, like, oil just not being a necessity in any way, shape, or form overnight? Instead of, like, this whole, drive an electric car kind of thing that's happening now. And, it's a trend, definitely, and it's in a trend in a good direction, but, like, oil still runs the world.
Right. No,
and,
you're
like,
not wrong.
for them to just, like, have nothing it could collapse society as we know it from a capitalist standpoint, but what are the other detrimental facts? You know what I mean?
Right. We don't need religion, or we don't need this, we don't need that. It's
a slippery slope, and it's tough. So after the memorandum, we got that. As a result of the Halt memorandum, the British Ministry of Defence began their own investigation into the incident. This was confirmed when some of their secret files were released to Admiral Lord Hill Norton in 2001. Interestingly, the files also revealed the involvement of Lieutenant General Charles A. Gabriel, who was then the Supreme Commander of the USAF in Europe. Which I feel like, is Supreme Commander a thing anymore? Or is that just like I don't know. Anyway, off topic.
Yeah, I have no idea.
The file shows that Gabriel arrived at the Woodbridge base shortly after the incident and was handed, quote, taped evidence, end quote. Georgina Bruni speculates that this evidence would most likely have been photographs of the landed UFO and possibly radar recordings.
Nice.
So why, tell me why, would the Supreme Commander of the United States Air Force in Europe visit the Woodbridge base shortly after the UFO incident unless it was directly connected to the Close Encounter incident?
Yeah, because they're all shady cocks when it comes to this stuff.
Precisely.
Yeah, they got to keep the boot on the neck when it comes to this stuff. Like,
which brings us to denial, not just a river in Egypt, and cover-ups. The MOD responded with the usual denials and claimed that the event posed no defense significance, quote unquote. Either they're all crazy, or they all actually saw what they saw. Either way, they're on a nuclear base.
Yeah, like, bullshit, dude. Like, no defense significance. Like, for unknown objects shooting beams into weapon lockers is absolutely a defense significance, right. Jackass.
The fact of the matter is that either it happened, which is a defense significance,
right,
or the people running a nuclear base are all insane and saw
crazy.
Something that didn't happen, at which point, significance.
Yeah, huge significance. Jesus.
So despite the unearthing of the Halt memo, the U.S. military did everything it could to ensure the story remained a secret. Go figure.
Yeah.
When Peniston tried to recover the photographs he took from the craft from the base photo lab, he was told he couldn't because the film was supposedly fogged and therefore useless. Peniston doubts this and believes his pictures were inevitably confiscated.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt in my mind somebody just yoinked them.
100% confiscated. So
yeah, they were
we came full circle on the pictures.
Ah, that's bullshit, dude. That's such a waste and a shame.
Mm-hmm. But also, one of the 3 plaster casts he made of the landing site disappeared whilst being shipped by the military. Must have fallen off the back of a truck.
Yeah, or so they say.
Yeah. He managed to keep the other 2. And long after the event, when he had moved back to America, he discovered a bug in his house. And not like a spider, but like a listening device. He also received threatening phone calls and discovered that his mail was frequently tampered with.
That shouldn't have been as funny as it is. That joke was so stupid and lowbrow that it was hilarious. And not just a cockroach in the kitchen, an actual listening device. Holy shit. But, like, seriously.
You're so welcome.
But, like, what the hell, dude? It's just, like, time to move. Time to change my identity. Like, time to just live off grid now. Yep. Oh.
A far more sinister turn of events happened when Peniston was interviewed by the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, or AFOSI, shortly after his encounter. AFOSI is a branch of military intelligence tasked with security issues within the Air Force. And the AFOSI agents asked Peniston if they could inject him with the truth drug, sodium pentanol, in order to help extract information about his encounter. He reluctantly agreed on the condition that after his interrogation, they would leave him be. He has stated that this experience disturbed him so much that he subsequently suffered from nightmares and was later diagnosed with PTSD.
That's crazy, dude. I get the feeling that this is like one of those like black budget operations of our government. And like yeah, and like, dude, they're just the worst. It's like, how is any of it at all even close to legal? It's like the branches that oversee themselves just really need to go. Like,
yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, okay, so this guy's either crazy or he's not crazy. But if they inject him with the truth drug, like the first thing they can ask him is, "Are you full of shit?" And if he says no, then okay, so what the fuck happened? You know what I mean? Let's dive right into this. So I get it, but like, come on, dude.
It's crazy.
So, well, down the road in 1994, Peniston agreed to undergo hypnosis with a professional hypnotherapist as a way to deal with the trauma. Now, this is him. Like, so the session,
he agreed. Okay.
Yeah, he agreed.
Right.
Like, this wasn't like more military stuff. This is him just saying like, I'm going to undergo hypnosis with a professional.
Okay.
So the session was videotaped, and a transcript of the session ended up in the public domain. In this session, Peniston explains that the 2 AFOSI agents were replaced with an American from the State Department and an Englishman from the British equivalent. They questioned him repeatedly about the structure of the craft and the details of the symbols he saw. And they concluded that they knew exactly what he had seen, and the only real issue was how to contain the story.
Jesus, dude.
And we've gotten, like, this is another, like, hypnosis thing, where, like, all this stuff is now coming out.
That's crazy. It's just thugs. Again, just the only way to explain these guys are thugs. Also, for anyone out there listening and is interested, just look into the State Department, and you will be so disgusted with what that fucking department does. It is, like, the center of our weird government bullshit. Like, if it's not the CIA, it's the State Department. Always. Always, dude. Like, it's no joke.
Yeah.
They're shady. They gotta go. They can get them out of here.
Sneaky snakes. All right. When the two men asked Peniston if there were any beings present, Peniston made reference to the visitors, quote unquote. When questioned about the identity of the visitors, Peniston made the astonishing statement that they were time travelers from the future. These were not extraterrestrial visitors, but were, he claimed, us from the future. He then went on to explain that the agenda of these time travelers was to collect genetic material. He stated that the visitors had some kind of severe problem reproducing their species and would die out if they could not extract human genetic material. Remember, we very, very briefly touched about this on Ancient Alien, or just Alien Theories, not Ancient Alien Theories, but Alien Theories of, like, you have the Greys, you have, lizard guys, but this is also what sparked that other theory that it's just time travelers. Yeah.
And also, it's also just what the absolute hell.
Yeah,
it's wild.
That too.
Because it makes you wonder. It's just like, is there a shred of truth behind this, what they're saying? Or is it just like an elaborate ruse just to get misinformation out there? You can't prove it one way or the other.
When I read that line, in my mind, all I heard was, like, what a twist!
Yeah, like M. Night Shyamalan.
Right,
in
exactly.
This story.
Like, oh my God.
Jesus.
Like, didn't see that one coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that is the Rendlesham Incident.
That's wild. That was great.
And granted, we plowed through it, and there's way more information about it and way more details out there. But that is the most significant alien encounter outside of the United States. Now, the last thing we're going to cover is the 1987, and I'm no way I get this correctly. I believe it's pronounced Ilkley Moor alien. The Ilkley Moor alien. A policeman named Philip Spencer claims to have taken a picture of an alien being. If this is true, it is one of only a few in existence. The scary Ilkley Moor in Yorkshire, England, would hold the secret of the strange creature encountered one early morning. Godfrey was frightened but ran after the creature, taking one photograph. Through hypnosis, he would recall an odd flying object and an alien abduction. And we are going to revisit this particular incident in more detail on the next episode, as it involves our wonderful mascot, the Men in Black.
Oh, nice. And guys, you're really going to want to tune into this next one, because JR has got special guests Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones on our next episode. So you're not going to want to miss this, guys.
Okay, so for starters, neither of them are going to be joining us on the next episode. So let's just put that out there right now. Number two,
I tried.
This is not your movie Men in Black.
Not even close.
This is the real Men in Black. The crazy, douchey, strong-arming fiends that come out of nowhere and essentially wreak havoc on people who claim to have encounters with aliens.
God.
So that's where we're going to pick up next time on the Mystery in Our History podcast. Now, as always, if you have any urban legends or conspiracy theories that you think we should cover, feel free to email us at 4 guysmedianetwork@gmail.com. Please make sure to subscribe and rate us on iTunes. Click the like and subscribe buttons on YouTube, on the Four Guys Media Network page, or check us out on SoundCloud. And thanks for listening, and we will see you the next time on the Mystery in Our History podcast. Bye.
See ya.